Hi guys, I'm going to be explaining a little bit on how I get into some of these tighter spaces, and the job that I have right now, this particular weld is probably the tightest space that I have to get into, and definitely one of the more difficult because of its length and because there's something behind it that kind of blocks my filler rod from maintaining that proper angle to feed it in. So I'm going to be going over a little bit about all of that, and hopefully it'll help you guys as well. So the first thing I want to mention is, and probably the thing that'll be most detrimental in helping you achieve getting into those tighter spaces and getting as close as possible to the right angle for your heat affected area, is changing that back cap to the smallest one you have. So the one that I have on is basically a nub. It's the smallest one you can put on without having any at all. So that's definitely the most important thing, first and foremost. The second thing I want to talk about is when you're in there and you're trying to get that right angle, but you can't quite get it, because even with changing that that back cap, I wasn't able to get I was just maybe a few degrees off of getting that perfect weld. What you can do to compensate for that, sort of like a guy that buys a big truck and has a small penis, is you kind of pull away a little bit. So you maintain that angle, but you pull away horizontally, maybe a quarter of an inch. So you're basically expanding the heat. You're expanding the arc a little bit. So the same amount of heat still gets applied to to the bottom of the material, or the bottom of the joint. But when you're pulling away from that vertical wall, it's giving it less heat, in a sense. So you're still maintaining that weld, but you're giving more of that you're getting more of that optimal angle. Now the next thing I want to talk about is what I mentioned before. When I was welding, there was the base plate. So the product was flipped on its side, so I could get to that weld a little easier instead of welding vertical. But there is for the feet, there was that base plate that was getting in the way of my filler rod. And as a lot of you might know that have been TIG welding for a while, or just getting into it, if something's in your way that filler rod touches, that's not in the weld affected area, then it will stick to that surface exactly where it touched 75% of the time. Which can be a real pain in the butt when you're laying down a real nice weld and you finally got it, and then your filler rod sticks, and you're feeding and it hits the tungsten, or it just burns away, and then you have to basically restart the weld, and that always sucks. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Now you can fix that by just angling it in. I mean, you can put in filler rod vertically if you wanted to, or even behind, which I've done a few times, a few different places. But for the most part, if you do it right and you're careful, then you can get that filler rod in any way, and hopefully that all those three things help.